Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. I'm your host, Jerred Moon. The Garage Gym Athlete Podcast is a result of my desire to build better humans, unequivocal coaches, and autonomous athletes. I've spent the last several years obsessing over program design, nutrition, and every other way you can optimize human performance. This podcast distills the latest scientific research with what I've learned and blends it with the not-so-scientific field of mental toughness. We are here to build you into a dangerously effective athlete. If you enjoy this podcast, you can find out more about our training at garagegymathlete.com. And if you want to pursue more into the field of coaching and programming, head to endof3fitness.com. Thanks for listening. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Garage Gym Athlete podcast. It's just Trampus and Joe here today. Can't say podcast, which is always a good start to the podcast.
Yeah.
Now I've said it enough times to where I know not to mess up podcast. All right, we're going to get into it. We are covering a study today on probiotics and its relation to, let's just say, overall health. I wouldn't say to athletes, but I have a lot to say on probiotics in general. And we're also going to be talking about intrinsic versus extrinsic motivators and things to look out for either when helping family or even for yourself if you're looking to stay motivated and do things for the right reasons. And then we'll get into a Meet Yourself Saturday workout. But we're going to start with updates because we haven't done updates in a while. And you normally jump straight into the study. But we have some updates, company updates, if you will, that I'll go over. I'll go last. But that definitely need to be mentioned. And just hear from the team, see how you guys are doing, what you're up to, how's life. I'm going to go with you, Joe. How are things, man? What updates do you have for us in the world?
Nothing too crazy special, except that I ran 3 times this week, which doesn't sound that crazy, but, considering how the weather's been ridiculously hot in Bahrain, that it's felt good, even though the humidity's still out the wazoo and crazy and terrible. So I come back.
It's humid there too?
Yeah. Like it's been in the 80% humidity, which is
That's like the worst place on earth, weather-wise, right? I mean, it's like 120 and like 80% humidity. It's not fair. Normally you should get one or the other.
At the hottest, it would be like 99 to 100, 102 outside, and then it would be humid. So that's why it would be in the 120s. Now it's like 85 to 88, but 80+% humidity. So the temperatures are still 105 to 108. So like today's run, I was at about 108. Over pretty much all week, actually, when I run, it's been about that mid 105 to 108 range. But there's actually air movement. So somewhat of a breeze, which in the summer also when it was 120 something, no air movement at all. There's just stale, non-moving air. It's terrible.
Just blows all that hot air right in your face.
No, there's no blowing.
And if we have any new listeners, he's in Bahrain, if you're unaware of where Joe's at.
So ran three times outside, which is nice. And I didn't want to get into more running anyway. Training wise, all good, I think. Not too special much else, I don't think, unless you can think of anything.
If I can think of anything for you,
yeah, no. For me, probably... what do I have going on?
I don't know. You've been all over the country lately, or the world.
Yeah. I went to Denver 2 weeks ago for my brother's bachelor party for about 5 days. That was a whole lot of fun, even though it was within a week span. I was flying 23 hours twice, but worth it. Just that. I mean, it wasn't enough time to actually acclimate for like circadian rhythm, but so that was kind of messed me up for a couple of days or about a week, but good to go now. Back to running. I like it.
Awesome.
Trampus.
Yeah, I am in a new location. This is my biggest update for the last 5 days. I didn't beat Jerred chronologically, but I beat him time-wise. My office took about 5 days.
And mine took over a year.
But to be fair, the building was already here, and if you saw the other side of this, you would think you're not even close to finished. But it's fine. It looks good in the background. Other updates, I'm actually starting a new day job next week, so that's pretty fun. I've been out of work for a few weeks now, but gonna get back to the old grind next week. Sounds like a big good opportunity for me. I'm in construction, for anyone that doesn't know. And that's also why I was probably able to get this done so fast, is I was the GC. So poor
yeah,
Jerred.
that helps.
Poor Jerred having to deal with other people.
Well, and having to start with like no foundation. Come on, that's a big thing right there.
But training wise, been good. I got 4 solid days of indoor last week, and that kicked my butt. And then I jumped straight into building out this office. So I've been like near zone 2 for the last 5 days, for 8-9 hours,
Like
all
every
day long.
waking hour. Yeah.
So I'm glad that I'm done though, because I can get back to just some more focused training, I guess. But other than that, doing good. What's going on with you, Jerred?
Yeah, man, I had like 2 weeks of that when
Yeah.
my backyard flooded, and I was just like, well, got to clean this up. I was shoveling mud and let's just call it landscaping type work for like 2 straight weeks. And it was just, that was all I was doing. You know, I was just like constantly, like you said, in zone 2. I was just like, yep, shovel this, wheelbarrow, get rid of it over and over again. It's good for you though. You get like, you can work out all the time and you still will find out after doing manual labor like that, you're sore somewhere that you think, oh, wow, I guess I don't train the bottom right side of my lower back.
Yeah, for sure. And then the sleep. Like, I generally sleep good, especially when I'm training and I'm eating well. I generally sleep good. But like, my wife had to work late the other night, and she came home, and I had no recollection that she was even in the house. She came in. I told her the next morning, like, I have no idea you got home. I said, you could have been a murderer. We could all be dead. I had no idea, but I've slept like a rock the last couple nights, and it's been great.
That's awesome. All right, so updates for me. I don't know if it's officially even been announced. When we were giving updates, I was building an office. The office is built. I'm in the office. So if you're on YouTube, you can see I'm in a slightly different location than previous, but for the listeners, it's not that much different for any of you. But I am in the office. It's complete. So really happy about that, to have EO3 HQ kind of established and away from everyone else. That's about it. Life-wise, yeah, in the nicest way. Being away from the kids and those kind of things, but that's it. Life-wise, yeah. Training, I'm back on H2K off of BCT and loving H2K. I'm still slowly chipping away at back squat and myo time stuff, but I'm not gonna commit to anything. Like I'm still going for it, just much slower right now to make sure I don't get hurt again. Now, as far as big company updates that I mentioned, I posted in the Facebook group, and just so everyone's aware, we've kind of split up End of 3 Fitness and Garage Gym Athlete. They have had this weird intermingled relationship over the years, and it was done accidentally. It wasn't like on purpose. It was just Garage Gym Athlete kept growing. End of 3 Fitness was kind of growing in a different direction. And there was a lot of confusion. And even with the URL, we used to have crew.end3fitness.com. And originally crew.end3fitness.com was just supposed to be kind of like the members area of End 3 Fitness, going back all the way to like 2015. But then it kind of grew into like, that's where everybody does everything. And it's really where everybody was doing Garage Gym Athlete. So anyway, it's all kind of like technical stuff. I don't know how much people care, like our athletes care, but there is no crew.end3fitness.com. There's end3fitness.com, which is for educating current and aspiring coaches. So we provide education on programming, mindset, digital business, online business, that kind of stuff. And then Garage Gym Athlete is what it's this podcast, it's daily training, and there's garagegymathlete.com. So there's 2 websites, 2 different purposes, same team. But that was a lot of work. We've been doing stints of work behind the scenes, because it's not even the main thing that we do around here for months. It's been something we've been working on for a long time, and they're finally split apart, and there's going to be new stuff with that. But how this applies to the athletes, like I mentioned, there is no crew.end3fitness.com. There's only garagegymathlete.com. So if you've ever purchased anything from us ever, it's at garagegymathlete.com right now. Doesn't matter what it is. If it was One Man, One Barbell, a Garage Gym Athlete membership, doesn't matter. It's all at garagegymathlete.com with your current login credentials that you should have always had. And if for some reason you can't remember them, just try to log in and use that forgot password, and it'll shoot you your password. And then if you've never purchased anything from us or ever logged in, you can fix that. You can actually go to garagegymathlete.com. You can sign up for a 14-day free trial. That's a great way to get an account and get things started. But yeah, that's it. Did I miss anything, Joe?
No, but how's your reacclimation into Hard to Kill been going?
It's been good. It's
Mine has not been good, but go ahead.
Well, I told you guys in the team meeting, and it's kind of funny because the first week of Hard to Kill was we squatted 3 days that week. And it was something I had to do with the programming. I wasn't trying to like make people squat that much, but I wanted to fit in a certain type of strength programming in the first wave. And 3 days of squatting had to happen somewhere because we had to testify rep max. And so I did it. And so I did those 3 days. And then we had this kid he lives in the local area. He really wanted to work out with me. That was kind of like, I don't know, on his bucket list or something like that. His dad recently passed away. My mom's very well connected in the community, got word to me that this is a big thing that he wanted to do. Him and his dad, I guess, wanted to work out with me, and his dad passed away. And so now he's just seeing if he could work out with me. And I was like, absolutely. And so he came over on Sunday, that first week of Hard to Kill. And I had no idea. I was like, what? Someone requests to work out with you. I'm like, what do you want to do? Like, I mean, is there a certain type of workout you want? Like, because if you just come over to my house, we're just going to do Murph. Like, that's what's going to happen. But he's 15 years old, so I'm not going to like try and crush the kid. And he's in football, and he was like, I want to do legs. And I was like, awesome. Okay, so you want to do it. So that was my first week of Hard to Kill, was the 3 squat sessions, and then on Sunday, a 4th squat and deadlift session. So I was pretty sore. That was my reacclimation. I don't even know if that was was that the first week? Yeah, that was the first week of Hard to Kill. Yeah. So yeah, that was brutal. But overall, it's been awesome. I really missed doing different things, if you will, like just more stuff. So it's been a lot of fun so far.
Nice. And to be fair, I'm not on Hard to Kill, but indoor has been tough as well, despite the shirt. Not Hard to Kill for life.
Just change it to GGA for life.
GGA for life. I might have to do that.
I think Chris Morgan's the only one sticking to H2K for life. I think he's the only one who's actually holding it down now.
Even he was complaining. He was complaining about mountain climbers or something the other day.
Mountain climbers are awful, especially when it's 30 of them at 4 count. Yeah, those are not good.
Go ahead, though.
All right, let's get into the study. It's effects of probiotic supplementation on anthropometric and metabolic characteristics in adults with metabolic syndrome, a systematic review and meta-analysis of randomized clinical trials. I feel like I don't even have to explain much just from their title. It's a systematic review. It's a meta-analysis of what? Randomized clinical trials. So that's what they were looking at. They did pull a bunch of studies. They had inclusion, exclusion criteria. I think overall they pulled 10 publications, and it got down to even less than that, about 344 total participants. So they're interested in body weight, body mass index, and waist circumference as body composition outcomes. And they were interested in total cholesterol, LDL, HDL, triglycerides, fasting blood sugar, blood insulin levels, and insulin sensitivity as biomarkers related to cardiometabolic health. So they really just wanted to see how probiotics influenced these things, influenced body composition and biomarkers related to cardiometabolic health. And I think we've talked a lot about, not a lot, but you've probably heard us mention probiotics on the podcast a few times at least. And I've definitely had mixed opinions on them over the years, but I think there's a lot that we could get into. And I think the discussion on probiotics is going to be more important than the study, because all the study turned out, if you guys pulled out anything interesting, let me know. But the only statistical significant thing that it reduced or affected was total cholesterol. And it didn't really do much else. We could look at the graph for every single thing, but I think also jumping into who the study was even looking at, the type of person, is something that we could discuss, and then get into a lot more of, is gut health really that important? Are probiotics really that important? And these are the things that I want to talk about. But what'd you guys pull from the study?
Yeah, Trevor, you
Yeah.
can go first.
So what you had just said there about was it the right person or talking about the person, like, I wondered if somebody that's in metabolic syndrome is the right person to test with this, with such a small change. And maybe it's a bigger change than I'm making it out to be, but like, you're not going to see a lot of benefit from just changing your probiotics if you have everything else going wrong with your body. Like, is your weight even going to change that much? To me, you would almost want to get somebody that's pretty well fat adapted or something like that, can change weight quicker, or maybe just a little bit healthier, I guess, and then see if their weight changes.
So you're saying that probiotics are not an easy button for those people who are metabolically unhealthy. It's like,
well,
you're getting into
my killing comfort, but yeah, like, I don't think it's not you're not going to take this one pill and all of a sudden you're going to lose 10, 15 pounds or 50 pounds because of that. Like, to me, the study did a good job of picking the studies that we're going to look at, but I just didn't know that this was the right participant for
the study. I think I might see why they did it, because it was such a basic thing of like, hey, we want to see what effect probiotics have. There was no fitness, there was no diet protocol. It was just like, hey, these people are overweight to obese in their BMI category, so they're going to have the most to gain, and they probably already have a bad gut health anyway, because if you have actual fit people, they might actually have decent gut health already. So like, if you seeing if there's going to be that monumental of a change, but also what you were saying is that like, hey, this isn't an easy button fix all, but what if we just change this one thing, see what they have more to lose, probably easier or enough to turn around. But yeah,
like we cover a squat protocol and they always pick untrained people just because. I think this is
kind of like that version of like, hey, we want to see if the results blown out even more, because if not, then they would have probably had to have the studies be much longer versus just like 1 or 2 weeks. So I think the minimum was 1 week, which is like nothing.
Yeah.
I think throughout the study, if you just keep reading, they suggested like a mixture of probiotics if you are going to pursue it, versus just seeing a Google ad or something, some sort of clickbait that says this probiotic helps you should try to get a wide range. But even that, to me, is so complicated, because nobody knows how many probiotics there are. I guess they have estimates on how many there are, but like, nobody knows, because the other thing I looked up was like, one bite of sauerkraut has like, it has 100 times the amount of the normal or the average probiotic pill. So
that's cool. I've never heard that comparison. That's
I think it was Mercola, Dr. Mercola. He's sort of a health fitness doctor guy, but he said that his homemade sauerkraut was tested in a lab, and it was 100 times stronger than just an average probiotic pill. So, and that's one bite. So I know a lot of people don't like vegetables, but my killing comfort is to eat some damn vegetables, but then to try to work your way into a little bit more diverse foods, and really a lot of the studies sort of pointed towards fiber and getting more fiber for the probiotics to work anyways. But I don't want to take everything that Joe may wanted to say, but go ahead, Joe.
That's fine. So I think this could have been a better one. This is almost like a first step to me, like kind of study. And even within the study, they mentioned doing stuff with gut health and probiotics with Division I athletes and elite rugby players, and like seeing their performance or body composition metrics with them. So like, I would love to get into those studies and make it even like a bigger discussion. But as far as this, I think the longer this would have gone on, it would have had more payoff down the road. So they saw the cholesterol went down in like overall cholesterol, but not one specific. I saw one of the charts within all 6 studies. It wasn't a significant weight loss, but everybody lost a little bit of weight. And every single one of the studies was like just about the same exact amount. It wasn't very much, but it was a little bit. And all of them were the same as well. So I think over time that could have helped more, just just reversing your gut health could help you clean up, and you're going to lose some weight and some inflammation if you are in the obese category. It is a step in the right direction, but it is not the fix. So, and what you were saying about, sauerkraut having 100 times more, supplementation also isn't the answer. And I think this is probably something that Jerred's probably getting into about, and some of the mixed thoughts of probiotics in general, is that it's just another marketing term. It's another thing that people can slap on stuff, but you don't need to have these supplementations or go looking for whatever packaged things that says, oh, with probiotics, because half of them, and I think this was covered in Fiber Fuels, is like the ones that are labeled like that, they don't make it past your stomach anyway. You need something a little bit better and more natural, because as your stomach breaks it down, the probiotics actually happen more down the chain. So like with actual fermented foods instead of something in a pill, because it's probably just going to be wasted in your stomach acids. So that's just a little bit off the side for gut health. And I mean, I've always been a big advocate for gut health, and all of us kind of are. The more I've learned about it, the more, and everything is going to be individual to you as well. So even, with these 6 or so different studies, they found that the more strains of probiotics they had, the better. So the more diversity that you have, the better you're going to be, which means different foods and different everything, but also you don't really know what strain is best for you, and everybody's gut health is going to be completely different. So it's more unique than like a fingerprint. So getting a good biodiversity of what you're eating, then you're pretty much going to hit on the strains, and you don't have to worry about taking a bunch of supplements to just like carpet bomb and hope that you get one of them with all these supplements. And also, you're probably not going to be consistent with taking supplements anyway, because it's just like I have vitamin D sitting on my desk to take, because I know vitamin D is important. I probably take it like once a week. Granted, I try and get outside a lot, but like it's just like that just happens. Like I know it's important. It's right in front of my keyboard.
Do you need vitamin D? Do you need vitamin D on an island nation in the middle of
if I don't go outside every day? Like now that I'm running, yes, yeah, I don't need it as much. But like I try and get outside either way. Yeah, so it's just focusing on the better quality of food is the main thing. And obviously, when we said about Fiber Fuels, so this is another plug for, I guess, that. And my killing comfort would be to eat fermented foods. I try and eat it at least like 4 times a month. So whether it's something fermented or like kombucha, Liz makes ours, so we always have some readily available. And yeah, just try and make it as natural as possible. But fermented food, you don't even have to have that much. You can just have like a little 4-ounce thing of something, a couple of bites, and it'll be better than what you're doing.
Yeah. So my thoughts on this are, I don't feel like there's an argument at all for saying gut health is not important. And so I don't want anybody to come to that conclusion when you look at these these studies that are looking at supplemented probiotics, and they're like, well, it lowered cholesterol a little bit, so whatever, but it's not really the same. So to be honest, we could just say, like, wrap this up with, go read Fiber Fueled, all of it, and see what that guy has to say. Dr. B, because it's pretty crazy last name. But it's a great book, and he does talk about, he has a section on there. So if you want to read about probiotics, and he pulls a lot of the research, and it's pretty much says similar to some of the things Joe says, and it's like, yeah, like if you get really high quality ones, they can be effective, but how do you even know those are the strains that you need? And so you actually have to get your poop like analyzed to know like what's missing to be able to have this like reverse engineered like probiotic for you. And I guarantee within the next 5-10 years, that's a thing. Like I can guarantee it. Like everything's moving towards personalization. I guarantee that you can send in a stool sample and have some sort of reverse engineered probiotic designed for you. And that'll be great. But until we get there, taking these Walmart brand probiotics, hoping that they're going to solve all your gut problems, it's not going to work. And so there's not an argument to me that gut health is not important. I think the science is very clear there, but the probiotics, I think if you are going to take them, they have to be extremely high quality, and you might not even necessarily need them because we don't know, like Joe said, it's as unique as a fingerprint, what you need the gut bacteria that you need. So I do think supplementation is tough. But all the things that these guys are saying, I agree with. Like, let's have a more diverse diet. Let's eat a bunch of different fruits and vegetables. Let's eat our fermented foods. And, we're going to be pushing the right direction for gut health. Because for me, the reason I've always focused on gut health is because if you just kind of look, if you take a step backwards from being an athlete and you're like, I want to train more, I want to see more results. It's like, okay, well, you need to recover better. And it's like, okay, well, how do I recover better? And then we could talk about sleep, we could talk about hydration and food. But if we really want to go back one step further to answer how do we recover better, one of the answers to that question is going to be have a better immune system. You need the most robust immune system possible, and it's going to help your recovery as an athlete. And so once you find out all those things are interrelated, then you're like, okay, well, how do I have a better immune system? You're going to take one step back and you're going to land on gut health. Like it's not going to be the only thing, but it's going to be a major thing that, and this is more news in the medical community, I'd say over the last 1 to 2 decades, how important gut health is connected to your immune system, your brain function, and everything else. And so I think it's really important to focus on your gut health. But when we say focus on your gut health, it's not going to be go take your probiotics. Now, if you have high total cholesterol and you want to try and reduce that, it had a significant reduction in total cholesterol. So maybe taking some store brand, like generic probiotics to lower cholesterol, if you feel like that's a problem, give it a try. But other than that, we're not seeing a lot of things in the positive for them. But there was another study that I pulled that looked specifically at fermented dairy products and cardiometabolic disease. And it was another systematic review and meta-analysis. And it was done in, where's the date on this thing? 2020. And just not to like unpack an entire another study, it was more favorable for a lot of the things that we're looking at as far as cardiometabolic health is concerned. It was more favorable. And so Tramp is mentioning one bite of fermented food has more probiotics. Like maybe there's a lot of truth to that, especially with this fermented dairy products, because when we look at people actually eating food for probiotic and then analyzing it, it seems like the results are more positive, much more positive than when we look at just, taking a couple of pills. So definitely focus on your gut health. And that's kind of my killing comfort is try to make gut health a priority in your diet. Like I know that some people are keto or vegan or whatever camp you want to sit in, that's fine, but can you overlay into your diet protocol gut health? As like, I'm trying to focus on gut health, so I'm going to get more fiber, I'm going to eat more fruits and vegetables, all these things, I'm going to eat fermented food. So that's my killing comfort tip for everybody is try to focus not just on carbohydrates and macronutrients and fat, but let's also focus on our gut health with fermented foods and eating a diverse range of plants. I think is ultimately my takeaway and killing comfort there.
And just one more anecdotally thing, when I was saying the other studies that were related to fitness people, there was one done that looked at high protein diets and compared them with low fiber and like sufficient fiber. And so high protein can affect your gut biome in a negative way. And being athletes, most people, we tell people to focus on protein for one. So if you're getting sufficient or high protein for whatever you're doing, you got to make sure you balance out with fiber as well. So that's kind of like the 1B, I guess, to making sure you're getting enough protein, but also you need that fiber needs to go along with it. So your gut still stays fine. And like, I know there's been times where people go to super high protein and they might either get stopped up or something like that. It's because you're not getting enough fiber, because too high of protein will negatively impact your gut biome.
Good takeaway. So that is probiotics and our thoughts and some of the science. A lot more thoughts than science, but hey, we're super smart, so you should listen to us.
We have 116 other studies that we've gone over.
Yeah. Just publicly. All right, we're going to get into intrinsic and extrinsic motivators here and why they matter to you. So this is something
it's internal and external.
Oh, I will be saying intrinsic and extrinsic. You can also refer to it as internal and external if you'd like.
Oh, that's
You threw me off for a second. I was like, am I covering the wrong topic? Are we in a different week?
No.
You're like, actually, Jerred, it's something else. I'm like, well, this is what I'm prepared to talk about.
Because Joe could not spell one of those words, so he went with internal and external.
All right. So overall, we talk a lot about this in the EO3 coaching course. And the reason is because you have to uncover, if you're a coach, you have to uncover what your athlete truly wants for them to succeed. Now, for any athletes listening to this, you need to do that for yourself. If you don't have a coach who's kind of walking you through a process, maybe we can do some of that here today on the podcast. But we go over the 5 primary elements for an elite performer. And it's a motivational climate, mentors, life experiences, psychological skills, and the insatiable desire or internalized motives to succeed. And that last one is the one we're going to be talking about a little bit more, is these internalized motives. What keeps an elite performer going? And it's almost never some silly extrinsic goal, like lose 10 pounds or something like that. It's rarely ever that. And to be honest, it's rarely ever actually that if you think about it. If you just sit down and think for a few minutes, if you're like, hey, I want to lose 15 pounds. And I just go, okay, why do you want to lose 15 pounds? And then your easy, simple answer would probably be something like, I want to look different. I want to look like the person who weighs 15 pounds less than I do. Now I'm going to ask you again, why is looking 15 pounds lighter important to you? And you're going to have to answer that question. And I'm just going to keep going and going and going every time you answer that question until we really find out that it actually has something to do with how your parents treated you when you were a kid. And like, we're down there, you're crying, and you're at this really deep emotional level. And now I'm like, okay, great. We found out why you really want to lose 15 pounds. Let's write that on our whiteboard. Let's put that on our bathroom mirror. We're at these deep level intrinsic motivators. So I'll give some examples of some here in a minute and everything, but we're just kind of to talk about them in a broad sense. What do you guys think about these intrinsic versus extrinsic or internal versus external motivators? Because I don't think that I don't want to take a crap, so to speak, on the external too much, because sometimes they're needed. They get the spark going. So it's not like they're horrible things and you're a horrible person for focusing on those things. It's just, if you want to stick to it, it might need to be a little bit deeper. What do you guys think about these?
Chambers, you have a lot more than I do.
Okay. I think that it's important to remember, we want a good, solid intrinsic motivator, because to me, that is what sustains, like, over decades. That's going to keep you going for the long haul. But I think it's also important to use extrinsic when you need it. And so you've got to insert that at certain times to stoke the fire. And, I think Marco said it good on his podcast. Motivation, or, whatever you want to describe it as, I think he likes to use discipline, but dude, more so than anything, like, you have to believe it. You can't just put it on the wall, and you have to become it almost. And my intrinsic motivation for training, or whatever, basically in everything in life, is so that I raise 2 strong men. And that's sort of, and also have a good relationship with my wife. That's it. But you've got to remember that every day is going to be different. So I honestly, the last few days, yesterday especially, I did not want to work on anything. I just wanted to sit on the couch. But I knew that I had a podcast coming up, so I used that extrinsic motivation to get me through yesterday. And it's important just to use both. I kind of look at it as intrinsic is the fuel that keeps the car going, and extrinsic is the steering wheel day to day that moves the car in the direction that you need to go. And that's how I've always looked at it, right? So it's important to use both, and you want to get to where intrinsic is really all you need, but you're going to have to use extrinsic from time to time to keep the fire going.
And let me jump in real quick and just give the list I have here of intrinsic and extrinsic for each, just in case anyone listening wants a few more examples. So, like, just to be more physically fit would be a little bit more intrinsic, weight loss, extrinsic, good health, intrinsic, physical attractiveness, extrinsic, enjoyment, intrinsic, toned body, extrinsic, social interaction, intrinsic, impress others, extrinsic, enhance self-esteem, intrinsic, win awards, extrinsic, develop friendships, intrinsic, satisfy competitive desires, extrinsic, reduce stress, intrinsic, relieve boredom, extrinsic, improve skills, internal, build muscle, external. Sorry, I couldn't say those words anymore. And then post something really cool on Instagram, external, extrinsic, so it should become pretty obvious and clear after hearing a list like that where you probably fit in if you are listening to this. But yeah, Joe, what are your thoughts on this?
So I originally thought about this as more of like an application standpoint of like how you're going to get them as well. And that's like outcome goals versus process goals.
Yeah.
And the extrinsic or the external goal will be more of like an outcome goal of that, like it's the output of what you're going to get from the process goal that you set out. So, and so like if internally, so it's building a habit, it's building the process, and that is your goal to set this process. And then at the end of the goal, maybe eventually you will hit that outcome goal, but your focus is on the process and the outcome will come. So they kind of go hand in hand. And like, a lot of times the motivation is kind of a subjective thing, and intrinsic motivators are typically more subjective versus extrinsic, and that external reward is more of objective. And there's only so much control sometimes you can have on objective, but the process goal is going to be your subjective goal of how you go about doing this goal, and then it's going to be achieved. But as long as you even if you don't hit that outcome, you should still feel good about that process and the internal goal that you achieved, because you did what you set out to do internally with your process, with all of that. And if the outcome or the external reward didn't quite pay off, it wasn't like a total loss. But if you only have focused on the external, that you didn't hit that number on the scale or that number on the weights, then you're just going to think of it as I lost it all, versus hey, I did all that I could 90% of the way, and then it was just that last 10% that I just came up a little bit short, but it's not a total loss. So that's just my quick thoughts on those differences, and I guess reframing and mindsets toward internal versus external motivators.
Yeah, I think that's good. When I talk about personal goal setting versus something like let's say business goal setting, in business it's very easy to be like, it's a number, right? It can be a certain amount of people, customers, revenue, something like that. It's very easy to just be like, boom, that's the goal. But that's a lot harder in our lives. It's a lot harder to be like, you know what? Goal equals good marriage. How do we know when that's accomplished? And then can you stop once it's accomplished? And so, no, right? And so what you're talking about with process goals, that's how I set up almost everything in my personal life. It's like, okay, if I want a good marriage, I have to go back to, okay, how many dates are we going on this month? And, what activities or actions am I taking, to make her feel loved or to be appreciated, and tracking the process of those, and then we can get into the deeper reasons of intrinsic versus extrinsic, why you'd want those things. But ultimately, if you want that happiness for another person, that's a deep level of intrinsic motivator to stay focused on the process goal to ultimately achieve what you're that, yeah, we all want a good marriage, and that's even a little bit extrinsic. It can, but it can be like, if you were to really lay it out, but ultimately the process of how you're getting there and just staying focused on the process, there has to be a huge internal reason to continue down that path. Like I said, it is a little bit different when you get into like a business metric, or even like in fitness. Those things are a little bit more like, there's still process involved. But when you achieve these things like 15 pounds lost or a 500-pound back squat, it's kind of done. There's no more to do. You have done it. So I think the process goal and being able to just stick with the process for the longest period of time is what's important. And two things that I always talk about with people when you're setting goals is enjoyment and competence, the two things I'm always going to hit on. So do you enjoy the thing that you're about to pursue, the process, the daily doing? And is it something, going to the competence now, that can expand your skills? Can it challenge you? And will you grow in the process? And study after study after study proves that those two things are needed. If you look at specifically the self-determination theory, those two things are needed for people to succeed. So you need to enjoy the process, and it needs to be expanding your skills. So if it's something that's boring and monotonous that you don't feel like you can get better at, it's not something that you're going to want to do. That's why I think a lot of fitness programs fail, because when you look at ours, like one, enjoyment is subjective, right? With like, let's say the Hard to Kill track. You might enjoy overall how it's programmed because we're hitting a lot of different areas and everything. But yeah, the training session might not be quote unquote enjoyable. But the competence side, I think that we add a lot of that to our programming. So something that you can get better at, you can be challenged in, you can grow, like zone 2. I can't tell you how many of our athletes sucked at zone 2 when they came, but every time they do it, they're looking to get better and better and better at zone 2. And they see that. They see that this is something I'm getting better at running. My heart rate is lowering at this same, level of physical output. And you can track it, you can see it. And it's not just this, I lost 5 pounds. It's something that you can actually get better at, because one could argue you could get good at losing weight, but what kind of skill is that? It's like, after you've lost the weight, like how do you keep practicing that skill of losing weight? You're going to end up with some psychological problems or actual physiological problems if you go too far down that path. So in fitness, you want to be looking at things that are going to expand your skills or challenge you. And that's why I like getting into things like cycling, because there are people who dedicate their lives to this sport, right? And I'm not ever going to do that. I'm taking little bite-sized chunks of cycling like once a week, and I'm finding out one ride at a time what I suck at and how I can get better at it. And so it keeps me going. There's a competence level there, and I also enjoy it. So those are the two things I think every athlete should be looking for if they want to be successful in their goal setting for fitness.
Agreed.
Anything else there?
Good.
All right. Well, I have nothing else to say. Yeah, enjoyment, competence, and go for those intrinsic goals and stay away from the extrinsic ones. And if you are, like I started with, if you have that extrinsic goal, just ask yourself why over and over and over again. Like, walk yourself through that process, and you will probably find out why you ultimately want what you want.
That is a good starting point.
Yeah, like I love this example. It pops up in the entrepreneurial world quite a bit, and people are always like, so say I'm like, hey, do you want to drive a Ferrari? And you're like, no, I don't want to drive. I'm not that type of person. Like, I don't want to be the guy who drives a Ferrari. But you have a why either way. So if you're the person who wants a Ferrari, there's something deep rooted in you that wants it. Maybe you just want to prove to other people, like, you did something, you accomplished something, but there's also the person who says they don't want that. There's something that you don't want to be perceived as in owning a Ferrari that also is just as deep rooted in the same as the person who wants to own the Ferrari. Sometimes like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. I don't want to be all flashy. And it's like, well, that's probably because looking modest or being this way, like, it means something to you. It's important in your life for some reason to be the guy who doesn't drive the Ferrari or who doesn't want the Ferrari. You both have the same mental issues. It's just opposite end of the spectrum, And so we need to find out what those are. Why are you the guy who doesn't want the Ferrari, or why are you the guy who wants the Ferrari? And it's the same case in fitness. Like, it doesn't matter. You have an answer to this question, but you need to keep asking yourself why until you find out why you ultimately have that desire or lack of desire in this area. All right. I'll just mic drop it there and go to the workout. Who wants to debrief the Meet Yourself Saturday this week?
I have it up.
Perfect.
So it is DiCarlo, and I actually forget how it actually, if it's all three. I think it's all three exercises. Oh wait, never mind. It's written right there. Yes. So it's a breathing ladder. So if you're not familiar with breathing ladders, it goes whatever rep you're on, that's how many breaths you take in between as your rest. So you would do one rep of an exercise, set it down. If you're doing something that you set down, take one actual breath. Then you do 2 reps, set it down 2 breaths, 3, 3, 4, 4, all the way up to whatever the ladder is. And I don't know why it's always asked, but you will breathe normally during the actual exercises. You are only counting the recovery breaths in between your number sets. So you got to make sure those breaths count. But the DiCarlo is a 1 to 15 back down to 1, so ascending and descending breathing ladder of kettlebell swings, burpees, and double unders. So you will do 1 kettlebell swing, 1 burpee, 1 double under, and then take your 1 breath rest, and then 2, 2, 2, 2 breaths of rest, all the way up to 15, and then all the way back down. It is a very hard, very long one. Time will stand still, especially when you get to the teens. And there's a 60-minute time cap.
And just to like throw in here, like it is a challenging one, and it's on purpose because the workout is named DiCarlo. That's a last name of Anne DiCarlo. She was part of our programming and involved in EO3 coaching and stuff, and she passed away from a battle with cancer. And ultimately her husband, and I'm not sure if he's still listening to the podcast or anything, but Tim, he's in the programming now, and he's still knocking it out. You see him in the community and stuff, which is awesome. But yeah, very active in the community. But this is in memory of one of our athletes, someone who's been around in the community for a long time, and that's also why the workout is very challenging, and why it's like the CrossFit hero workouts. Like I have a lot of respect for those workouts, but they can get lost at times, and that's my fear sometimes with Murph as well. Like just the doing Murph every time is like, yeah, we want to take it off the pedestal of the physicalness, the physicality of that, but never the memory of what it represents and what it stands for. And it's the same with this workout. Like it is Meet Yourself Saturday. It's the only one that we currently have dedicated to someone who's passed away. So just, put that in the forefront of your mind when you tackle this workout. Breathing ladders in general are awful. And then to do one
exercise breathing ladder.
Yeah, to do multiple different exercises in an ascending and descending fashion is about the best way you could probably remember someone through physical activity as possible. So my tips or tricks for this one is just breathe, don't really focus, take your time. If you need to call this workout, cut it short. I would rather you do a modified version and know that going in. So you'd be like, I've never done a 1 to 15 to 1 before. So maybe do a 1 to 10 to 1 or a 1 to 5 to 1, something like that, because it is long. And I'd prefer you finish some sort of level of it as opposed to just realizing you can't handle it and quit, so decide that going in, because it will take a long time. Because how I recommend people breathe when you're doing breathing ladders is not just normal. It's not just like, like however you'd end up breathing. You need to control your breath. And so when I get to like 15 breaths, that's taking a long time for me. Like I'd have to time it, but I'm intentionally trying to use that as recovery and breath control. So my inhale and exhale are taking very long periods of time. I'm trying to control that as much as I can. And this is where time really builds up in the workout itself, just because you have not only the exercise movements, but you have these very long controlled breathing periods. If you can. Now there is a way that if for some people, if you've never done them, your breath might get so erratic you are unable to keep up. And that's also kind of where you'd get capped and like you should start going down. But yeah, control the breath is my biggest thing with these. Just make sure that you are really, really controlling the inhale and the exhale as much as you possibly can, and getting the most out of it you can in memory of Anne.
My only tip is, you'll hit it with all the breathe normal or close to normal when you're doing the work, but also just take care of your hands, because them kettlebell swings will rip you up, chalk up, or just do all you can to do that. It's a fun one, huh?
Yeah. So each exercise, I'd say you don't have to rush through each of them, so like burpees, if you want to make it harder, obviously go fast, but you can do like 3 to 5 second burpees just so you can, because you're breathing during those exercises. You're not redlining to knock those out. And I'm sure, Jerred, you're the
I am
opposite
seeing
feeling.
I'm seeing that question come up less, but I know you already mentioned it, but how do I breathe during the exercise? It always cracks me up because like,
Am I supposed to hold my breath during this? No.
yeah, like no.
Please don't.
We're only talking about breathing in between here, not during the exercise. That would add some complexity there for sure.
Yeah. And if you're a proficient kettlebell swinger, like I know myself and Jerred, we do like the quick swings where you kind of shorten the range of motion. Maybe do full just so you have extra time to get, so that when the kettlebell is above overhead, there's a point where it's kind of just locked out and breathless and stable, and you just take a breath then during the exercise. But what I do during breathing ladders is during my breaths, I will have a box that I sit on to put my arms off to the side so that I can fully take in those deep breaths, and so that I can like fully go in nasal breathing. By 7 breaths, those breaths are hard, like to really stay disciplined to do deep breathing, but also you get a little dizzy because your heart rate's hammering away, but you're just like really slowing your breathing down. But it really, really pays off toward the end if you keep up with it the entire way. It'll get dicey as you get into the teens, but making sure you can control the breaths as much as possible, and sitting down might help to lower your heart rate a little bit. Versus, and all you have to do is stand up a little bit versus going full on fetal. So that's what I would kind of recommend, to rest as best as possible. Get that same with the breathing, but I even sit down and have my arms spread out so that I can fully breathe.
And per the science, the best way to recover during exercise is just hands on knees.
Yeah.
Not the fetal position. Actually, did that one win? I don't remember if it like
it was up there, yes, but it was just like, when are you going to do that? And I'm just like, well, I do it sometimes.
Yeah, so
it's probably the most convenient and most efficient is hands on knees.
Yeah,
instead of getting on the floor on the floor.
Yeah,
it's harder when you wear short shorts. I've noticed this on my runs.
I ran with a buddy who came in town. What was it? It was a few weeks ago, and we finished the run and we finished hard, and then he put his hands over his head and I put my hands on my knees. And to be honest, I've always kind of naturally done that. I know the science supports it, but that's kind of what I've done. And he gave me the old like, coach, get your hands off your knees. And I was like, how about you read some science, buddy? And then I lectured him
back to the house and let me educate you real quick.
Yeah, let me tell you why you should have your hands on your knees and not on your head. And anyway, so yeah, that's the best way to recover, and something definitely worth trying during breathing ladders.
I remember it was 2nd or 3rd grade in elementary school, whatever, PE, and it was put your hands on your head. And I've forever, until that study when y'all did it, like that has been the recovery position, even though it never really felt great.
Yeah, I mean, I even have football coaches, they'd be like, there's no good air down there. If you put your hands on your knees. I'm like, what are you talking about? Air is the same everywhere, coach. It's just like I don't know. I think laying down is kind of a sign of giving up and weakness, but hands on your knees, I've never had a problem with that. I think it's a great way to recover. So
it's probably more of you're taking the weight off your back. So now you're putting it on your knees. And so that they're looking at it as more of a, you're being, like, I guess, lazy in the way you recover, which is funny.
Yeah. When let's be smart about it, right? All right. Well, I think that one wraps this one up. If you are interested in just all we've got going on, I mentioned the website change. So you can go to endof3fitness.com. It's brand new. It looks completely different, and more for coaches and what coaches are looking to improve. So go check out endof3fitness.com if those things interest you. Also, Garage Gym Athlete, a brand new Garage Gym Athlete, inside and out. So yeah, the outside looks different, but if you log in, you'll see even the members area is a little bit different on the inside. So go check out the two websites, and if you can't find anything like the merchandise, which we still need to throw on there, it's that one is merch.garagegymathlete.com, and we'll make sure it's linked on the main page. We were having some problems with that part of the migration, but it's all resolved now. So don't worry about it, everybody. The merchandise is still there. Trampus is still here.
So sad. That's my last podcast. It's been great, everybody.
Kick him in while he's down.
Yeah, so I was actually worried about that. I was like, this doesn't seem to be clicking over. Like, but no, we're all good now. So go check out the different websites and see some of the new resources that we have and everything. And if you're brand new, it couldn't be easier to sign up for 14-day free trial with how we have things set up at garagegymathlete.com right now. So you can go there, snag a 14-day free trial, get indoctrinated into the program, check out the members area and everything that we have going on. So definitely do that. And for everyone who's been a part of the community and still, putting in the green dots, putting in the work, applying the science to their workouts, just thank you guys for making the community awesome each and every single day. We really do appreciate you. Now for the weekly reminder, if you don't kill comfort, comfort will kill you. Gym Athlete Podcast. If you want to learn more, go to garagegymathlete.com. You can learn about our training. Let us send you a copy of our book, The Garage Gym Athlete, or you can even get featured on the Garage Gym Athlete Podcast. Thanks for listening.